Since this is, Spotify's first campaign, Parinig Mo with Spotify, we're talking about love and the use of music and audio in the, how Filipinos consume love and all these things. I think it's great that we should start off our panel question with what song or song lyrics best encapsulates your current relationship status? Who wants to go first? Ay? Ayan.
I think a Taylor Swift song.
Ooh, which is?
22. Everything will be alright if we keep dancing like 22.
I like that. That's nice. Totoo yun, actually. What about you, Riyan?
I think it's Flowers, no? Very
Yes!
Flowers by Miley Cyrus. Specifically the lyrics about I can buy myself flowers.
Yes. Right,
I
you're
love
leaving
it.
Sam.
I can love, I don't sing, but it's something that I really resonate with because I practice self-love and self-care, and that's what
Yes.
I do.
Yeah, that's right, because I consume your content, actually, so I know it very well. Zach, can I just say that my song and lyrics is your song? Habang buhay. Okay, anyway, moving on. Well, so I just want to ask, why do Filipinos turn to audio to express and understand love? And for Carl, why do you think audio is an important medium for love, like romance and situationships and all these things?
Well, I think when you look at audio, you just think about music and the power that music brings to people's lives, right? And an artist is expressing themselves as a really true form of expression, and that just connects with people in a very deep and meaningful way. I mean, I don't have to explain the power of music and love, I feel, but when you have 100 million songs, you're bound to connect with somebody. And then when it comes to podcasts, again, the intimacy that you can bring. A lot of early podcasts that grew up around the world came from this whole psychology background. People trying to understand relationships better. And there's, it's like a fly on the wall. You're listening to some couple having a problem, and it's really, really powerful. So I think that's really what's driving a lot of the power of audio in life.
I see Tonette nodding. How do you? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you guys also discuss a lot of like love topics on your podcast.
I think Pinoys turn to audio when it comes to love because Filipinos love music, Filipinos love video karaoke songs. And when we're heartbroken or when we celebrate love, we usually celebrate it with music or we talk about it with friends. So in terms of talking about love, one friend's love problem is the whole Barkada's problem. So I guess that's why podcasts about love and relationships thrive because it's a simulation of a Barkada talking about your love problem on air.
And that's the vibe, no, on your podcast when people submit mga stories, questions, no. That's nice. So it really fosters like a community. I like that. Zach, congratulations on your launch of your new single, Akin Ka. Can you share with us how you think music and lyrics shape Pinoy love culture? From you, like because as a songwriter, especially.
Yeah, I guess as a musician's perspective, lyrics and especially now diving into like this part of my music where a lot of people really listen now, compared to when I was starting off the whole music thing. There's a really big vulnerability when it comes to really opening up my words and opening up my world in situations when I write my songs. And so when people dive into my songs, they kind of put in their feet into my shoes and what I went through and somehow get to this very deep connection where they know what I was going through because like they've been going through the same thing. And I feel like that's a very powerful thing when it comes to music and as well as love in all aspects.
Yeah. You know that feeling where you feel so alone when you're going through something very difficult, right? And then you post about it, or like you write a song about it, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, me too. And that's like millions of people saying, me too. I feel alone. So I feel that's where the power of any kind of audio consumption, like podcasts or writing music, that's where it comes through. What do you think of that, Riyan, as a psychologist?
Yeah, I would like to pick up on Carl's. He mentioned something about music is a powerful tool to connect people, like what Zack mentioned earlier. Yeah, I agree with that because music is a universal language. It's the language of our emotions. That's why it's interesting, right? When there are actually music that we don't really understand the lyrics, but we know that it's something sad. It's happy. It's something perky. So yeah, it actually alters our mood. It actually influences our behavior. And something that is also interesting is that we turn to music because our body, we are complex beings. We have this capacity to synchronize our bodies to music. That's why when we listen to music, there's this feeling like you wanted to dance. Or sometimes if you feel like you're sad and this music is somewhat sad, you feel like you wanted to cry or you wanted to, sometimes you want
It's like a regulation thing, right?
Yeah,
it helps
yeah.
you regulate or process your emotions.
Yes. That's why music is a powerful tool to connect with people and also to express yourself. Yeah. So
Yeah. Can I follow up with that? Because it has been said that Filipinos have been ranked as some of the most expressive people about love in Asia. Do you guys agree with that? That the Pinoys are expressive about their love? Why do you laugh?
I'm one of them, so maybe.
relate. Okay. Because it's curious because there's also the phenomenon of torpe. Diba? So that's not being expressive. So I want to follow up lang with that one. What do you think of torpe, parinig, situationships, like expressions of love?
yeah, actually that's quite interesting. So if you're torpe, meaning you can really verbalize what you really feel about this certain person. Music can be a helpful, it can be a powerful tool to help you connect with this person. I want you to listen with this because it tells something about how I feel about you. It tells me something about who I am. I want you to know me because of this playlist. So yeah, that's it.
That's cool.
I think I'm gonna just add, we are looking at the data, right? So love and relationships is the number one genre in the Philippines, and no other market in the world will we see as many shows related to love and relationships.
Really?
Yes.
I was just about to
let
ask.
the data guide what's really happening. Yeah, so love and relationships.
And in other Asian countries, it's not the same?
It's not the same. I mean, in Indonesia, it's horror, it's comedy,
Wow.
right? But Filipinos love love, so it's not one.
Well, I think that's true because I'm also a practicing psychologist, and most of my clients are related to love and relationships, heartbreak, sometimes issues about couple or sex, anything about love and relationships. So I think that somehow reflects.
It seems to be ingrained in our culture, love and how important it is to us. When you guys do your podcast, does that topic always come up like organically? People just want you guys to talk about it, or what's your experience when it comes to that?
In our podcast, because we have an episode where we meet letter senders, and then most of the topics and themes of the letters are about love. I think most of our listeners are in love with love and pain. So, yeah, most stories are about falling in love with your friend, your best friend. Yeah, so I think it's natural, especially here in the Philippines, to fall in love with your best friend because of Jolene and Marvin.
That's true. I was actually just wondering if any of these experiences kind of bleed into your art also, when you make your movies and things like that. Does it fuel that part of your creation?
I guess it's no secret that most of JP and I's films are rom-coms or love stories, and I guess it was how it was growing up, being in that age bracket, like 20s or early 30s, where you feel that every heartbreak is like the end of the world. So, so it comes natural. It came natural to us that most of our films would also reflect that era of our life.
And it's so relatable kasi, because like every time I watch any one of your movies, I feel like I see myself in one of the characters there, you know, because I fall in love with a best friend of mine from before. Let's not talk about that. That's all I'm going to say. So, let's move on to Zack. How do you feel when knowing that people use your lyrics to make parinig or to make ligaw?
It's crazy. Because like my music kind of started with Nangangamba actually. That was kind of like one of the pilot releases with my label. I just moved with them, and then Nangangamba was the first one. And then suddenly it just came blowing up on TikTok with Gen Z's making parinig to their crushes and all these things, and then Beanie came out as well. And so it's really humbling. It's very nice to kind of have that sense of pride in me that I can get to really have this platform for them to reach out to the people that they can't and they're too afraid to reach out to.
Yeah.
Just like Bano, right now it's blowing up in Southeast Asia, and like we have no idea it's charting in Indonesia and Malaysia. It's crazy, and everything is in Tagalog too, and so
Right, yeah.
it really just kind of explains how powerful it is just reading the lyrics alone. It's like
That's
they've been
true.
translating everything by themselves and doing their own stuff with the songs as well.
Right. So, Spotify lyrics, does that have a translate option?
Not that I know of,
But they copy the lyrics, right? And then they just
they'll
like,
figure it out.
they'll figure it out. Yeah, they're smart. Amazing. So it's charting in other Southeast Asian countries.
We have no idea how.
That's wild.
I think that's what Riyan said, right? The power of music just cuts across borders, and Spotify allows people to find it. And
True.
once they find one, they'll find another because it's what they like.
True, true. Like even personally speaking, as a Spotify exclusive podcaster, I see through Spotify that my podcast charts in other countries too. And it's just, I don't know how it gets there, but according to Spotify Wrapped, Sleeping Pill with Inka was in 128 countries. It's crazy. I never would have known that if it weren't for Spotify. Which brings me to the question, Carl. We know that podcast consumption has taken the Philippines by storm. There's so many new podcasts coming up, like all the time. Can you share why people are turning to podcasts when it comes to love and relationships?
I think I covered it before. First of all, there's so much content, so whatever you need is probably answered in a podcast. And a lot of creators in the space, whether they are psychologists or couples just wanting to talk about relationships, are coming on naturally to the platform. They find that podcasting is a medium that they really enjoy doing. It's not something that it's a labor for them. So they naturally come on, they come up with really good content, and then the audience just finds it and it just starts to build that way.
Yeah. I think
one thing is that, like we've just discussed this at length, the culture, it reflects the culture of the Philippines. We didn't say like, hey, let's go and make these love and relationship podcasts.
Yeah.
They just started to happen because intrinsically the creator community and the users are all looking for the same outlets, right?
Yeah.
Expression and creation.
Yeah, definitely. It does have that reflection of the culture, you know. Have you guys been doing episodes on situationships?
We had some letters
About?
some senders who would send letters about that kind of situation wherein parang kami pero hindi. So it's like relationships without label.
Did we have that when we were younger? Parang iba eh, no? MU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parang it's the same phenomenon but just carries a different name per generation.
Right, per generation. And I feel like it's taken the current culture by storm, actually, yung mga situationships. Have you guys ever, I see you laughing. Have you guys ever been in situationships? No. Be honest. Because it's everywhere right now, just like, are we not? What is your take on that? As a I'm really wanting to pick your brain on this.
Well, I agree with Derek that it's there, but we rebranded into situationship. So I don't think it's actually bad to try situationship because we don't start or we don't really commit that easy. You know, we need to get to know this person.
Testing the waters.
Testing the waters.
Yeah.
So it starts with situationship. So yeah, we start with no label relationship or situationships, but you have to decide. You have to decide when are you going to allow yourself in this kind of situation. Because based on my experience, if it takes longer, it might be hard for someone to stay in that kind of relationship. Because at the end of the day, we wanted to have that exclusivity or sometimes,
it's like a reassurance.
Yeah, reassurance that I am the only person that you know. But there are also existing relationships like polyamorous. But again, it has something to do with consent. If it's consensual, if it's something that you are comfortable with, go. But for me, based on my experience, a lot of my clients, heartbreak. Heartbreaking version. I also encountered situationship. And it's really hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Same.
For 5
same.
months. For 5 months.
5 months.
Yes, I settled for this. Imagine.
5 months.
Again, sometimes we're not immune to any.
Of course.
I have my license, but I allowed myself to try it.
We're human.
Yeah.
We're only human, right? My situationship lasted for I thought it was around that 5 months. When I checked, it was a month and a half. But why did it feel like it lasted so long? My goodness. But I feel like at that time, because I wasn't super into podcasts yet. I don't think it was super available to me. But now that there are resources like your podcast and your music, I feel like I would have been able to digest it better. You know what I mean? It helps you process these emotions when you have people on our panel to help kind of discuss things with. So it's such a phenomenon, that Spotify has this kind of reach for people.
You think we have this kind of platform so we can talk about this kind of experiences and we guide other people about this kind of phenomenon. So we can help them. We can guide them.
True. Because on your podcast, I know that you tackle so many things about mental health and all these things. Can you quickly share with us how Spotify has helped both yourself and your listeners kind of bridge that gap and reach out to people in your audience?
I was quite surprised with Spotify, and I didn't actually know that other people are listening to my podcast. super surprised. So there are moments where I just visited a friend, or I just went to coffee shop and then someone mentioned na, I listen to your podcast. So for me, it gives me a affirmation or validation na I'm doing my part. And then they gave me feedback na, thank you to your podcast kasi you're giving me free therapy.
Ayun!
I'm giving them free therapy because again, in the Philippines, it's really expensive.
It is. It is. Super. And do you guys feel the same way with ang Walang Kwentang podcast? How do you feel like Spotify has been helping you as creators?
I guess same with you na during Spotify Wrapped in 2022, they would give a summary of the countries that your podcast was available to. So we had, I think, 97 countries or 98 countries listen to our podcast, and we're a Filipino podcast. We don't really speak most English most of the time, so it means that Filipinos all over the world find some kind of comfort in listening to a podcast where the creators speak their language.
Yeah.
So it's really a warm feeling that ang Walang Kind of podcast started as just like a conversation between friends, and now it has grown into like a big barkada of thousands and a community that we were really surprised that it just happened very organically.
I love that. I can imagine like all the Pinoys in different countries, like for example, mga OFW, they need to go out there to work and then they listen to ang Walang Kwentang podcast and it makes them feel like they're home. It's like a support group, exactly, which is so important. And Carl has all the details on that as well. Do you feel like Filipino podcasts, like the ones that aren't in English even, do you feel the growth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when podcasts first start in most markets in Southeast Asia, it starts with a lot of international content. But the minute we get sort of velocity and it just turns quickly to fully local, and it's what's happening in the Philippines right now. I mean, look at the top 40, it's all local podcasts in the local language.
Yeah, that's true.